One new details tonight on a lawsuit against an elite college that is raising questions about the rights of young men on college campuses in America. In December of 2013, Amherst College expelled a male student for sexual misconduct after adopting policies pushed by the Obama administration. The young man, who was expelled after a hearing in which he had very few rights, is known in this case as John Doe. He later hired a lawyer and discovered evidence which appears to clear him in the case, but Amherst will not hear it. Max Stern is John Doe's attorney. He began an interview with me tonight by elaborating on the nature of this woman's alleged rape claim.
She started by saying that it was all coerced, but then when she got to the investigator stage and she spoke to the investigator, she said, well, actually, it was, I did it willingly at first, I just changed my mind in the middle.
And just so the viewers can see what she actually testified to, because we have a transcript of it, here it is. John raped me the night of February 4th, 2012. In my initial report, I did not explicitly say that I had agreed to perform oral sex at the beginning. I covered that under the phrase, started the hookup. Regardless, when I said no repeatedly and physically pushed against him, John did not listen or pay attention to my clear refusal and held me down. Now, I ask you, Max, is it not plausible, has it not happened in prior rape cases that a victim consents and even though it may seem preposterous to some, halfway through says, I no longer consent?
First of all, the fact that she willingly consented at the beginning at a time in which, by her testimony and by the findings of this panel, Mr. Doe was himself incapacitated, should have left the panel to conclude that she had committed sexual misconduct, not him. But even beyond that, it became clear that, in fact, she was really the moving force behind the sex for the entire event.
Because so the audience knows, John Doe had his hearing, he was expelled, and then ultimately his ex-girlfriend, who is the roommate of the alleged victim here, came forward and said, hold on, hold on. In that hearing, I, the girlfriend of John Doe, told the investigator that there were text messages they needed to follow up on. And she now swears, I was surprised to see they never followed up on it. They never called any of the witnesses who were involved in texting the alleged victim on the night in question. And so now she says, I will set the record straight. I have obtained the texts, and here they are. And these texts, Max, show the alleged victim, the accuser, that night saying, my roommate knows me, it's pretty obvious, I wasn't an innocent bystander, and talking about how she's going to break it to the roommate that she had a sexual exchange with the roommate's boyfriend. She talks about, oh my God, I just did something so effing stupid, I effed John Doe. And then she laments that he was too drunk to make a good lie out of it. When the roommate comes back, you bring all of this. John Doe brings all of this to Amherst after the fact and says, hello? And what does Amherst say?
Amherst considered it for a year and declined to do anything about it.
You're claiming that this is a denial of John Doe's due process rights and that it was in a gender discrimination against a college male.
Well, that's right. There was no fair procedure here. He was told on November 1st that he had been charged with an offense that occurred almost 2 years before, and within 6 weeks there was a hearing. He was expelled. He was labeled a sex offender, and his future was in ruins. He wasn't allowed to have a lawyer. He wasn't allowed to investigate, if he even knew how to investigate, because he was told he couldn't speak to anyone about it. He had to go through this. He was given an advisor who was a member of the administration, who was prohibited actually from advocating on his behalf.
And so the most damning testimony, as I see it, put her to the side in these proceedings, was by somebody by the initials of LR, who told the investigator that John Doe confessed the assault to her. How do you defend that?
Well, in fact, nobody believed LR. The investigator didn't believe her. It's clear that even the hearing panel didn't believe her. John Doe was so intoxicated that everyone agreed that he was incapacitated, and they therefore discredited the notion that he had confessed.
The texts that were revealed after the hearing, they could have been revealed during the hearing had Amherst done its duty, but they were revealed after the hearing, included the revelation that the alleged victim in this case had a sexual encounter, which she admits was consensual, with another man. Do you think that something should happen to Sandra Jones?
We're not interested in prosecuting Ms. Jones. We are simply interested in getting relief for this man who was a wonderful student. He was a first-generation citizen of the United States. He was doing so well at Amherst. The world was his oyster, and in a 6-week period of time, his future was in complete ruins.
How is he today?
He suffers from shame and embarrassment. He's depressed. He doesn't sleep at night.
He has no college degree, and he has been labeled a discipline problem by the school. Max, thank you for coming on and telling us his story.
Thank you for having me.
Sandra Jones, by the way, is the alias used for the alleged victim in the case. So why is the larger media not covering John Doe's story here? Joining me now, Howie Kurtz, host of Fox News' Media Buzz. Howie, I want to get to the Brian Williams news in a minute, but I have to ask you, where are the media on this? Where are they?
I haven't seen a major media report except in the home state Boston Globe. And obviously, if John Doe would shed his anonymity and come forward, that would help drive the story. But here's the thing, Megan. Male college students don't make sympathetic victims in the eyes of the media. That's a designation reserved for women, especially in these disputed sexual assault cases, where the assumption is, men are pigs, and they only want one thing, and the man was probably the aggressor. And sometimes that's true, but in some cases, most notoriously the Duke Lacrosse case, the charges turn out to be not true, and I see very little interest here on the part of the mainstream media.
What about the Rolling Stone case? I mean, it's not like we haven't had a recent example of this, and shouldn't the media have their antenna up to tell the other side? Not every allegation is true.
The Rolling Stone debacle should have reminded us all in dramatic fashion that, yes, sometimes these allegations turn out to be false, exaggerated, fabricated. I didn't know anything about this story until you reported on it, and it seems to me these text messages, in real time from the woman who is the accuser, kind of blows the school's case out of the water. Now, there's some disputed facts. I don't know what happened, but you would think that this would be a story for more than the Kelly file.
They're devastating to this woman's case. She could never pursue this case in a court.